You try to keep going, but something inside you tightens. Frustration builds, your breathing changes, thinking gets harder. And at some point, learning just stops. That momentum isn't about effort nor intelligence, it's about emotional regulation. Welcome to Learning Reframed, Education Without the Noise. I'm Dr. Ken Feldman, and this is a podcast about learning that works, clear, practical, and grounded. And today we're talking about emotional regulation, how emotions shape learning, and why learning breaks down when regulation fails. This matters for every learner: children, teenagers, adults, parents, teachers, leaders. Learning asks people to risk being wrong, to struggle in visible ways, to stay engaged when things don't come easily. That's emotional work. When emotions overwhelm the system, learning doesn't become harder, it becomes unavailable. Understanding regulation helps us respond more skillfully to ourselves and, in fact, others. So, what emotional regulation is and is not? Emotional regulation is often misunderstood. First, it is not suppressing emotion, ignoring frustration, staying calm at all times, controlling feelings through force. But emotional regulations is noticing emotions as they arise, managing intensity so thinking can continue, returning to a steady state after activation, and staying engaged despite discomfort. Emotions are a big part of learning. Regulation determines whether they help or hinder. There are three regulation states we're going to talk about. Most nervous systems move through three general states: calm and engaged, focus is available, problem solving works, learning is possible. Activated, stress or frustration increases, thinking narrows, support helps. Dysregulated, fight, flight, or freeze takes over. Rational thinking goes offline, learning just stops. The goal isn't to avoid activation, the goal is to recognize it early and recover more quickly. So, why does regulation matter for learning? When people are dysregulated, working memory shrinks, attention fragments, and new information doesn't stick. That's not a mindset issue, it's biology. I'll give you a real world example. I once worked with a child who had a meltdown during homework almost daily. The work wasn't beyond his ability. What was missing was recovery time, emotional safety, and manageable pacing. When we adjusted those conditions before even touching content, the meltdown slowed and faded, not because learning got easier, but because regulation improved. What are the common triggers that disrupt regulation? Well, there's several patterns consistently push learners toward dysregulation. The first and most common is cognitive overload: too much, too fast, too demanding. Perceived failure: mistakes are now interpreted as personal shortcomings. Loss of control: feeling trapped or forced. Accumulated stress: fatigue reduces tolerance. Emotional unsafety: judgment, criticism, or unpredictability. When demand exceeds capacity, regulation breaks down. So, how do we support this in our practice? Before learning and the skills we need to be successful, address the basic needs: reduce task size, clarify expectations, and during learning, use brief focus blocks, normalize the struggle of learning, and pause at early signs of activation. And after dysregulation, restore calm first. Reflect later, adjust the next time. Reasoning comes after regulation, not before. For parents and educators, children learn regulation through experience. Name emotions calmly, model recovery, Give practice tools when calm, separate behavior from identity. Regulation is taught, not demanded. For adult learners, notice early signs: tension, irritability, racing thoughts. Respond with get up, movement, breathing, simplification, self compassion. Self criticism worsens dysregulation. Kindness restores capacity. So, in closing, learning doesn't require the absence of emotion. It requires the ability to move through emotion without shutting down. Emotional regulation is a skill, and like any skill, it can be practiced and strengthened. Next time on Learning Reframed, we'll talk about study skills: what actually works, what doesn't, and how to study in ways that respect how the brain learns. If today's episode resonated with you, follow the podcast on your favorite platform and give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. And more importantly, share this episode with someone who might find it helpful. I'm Dr. Ken Feldman. Thanks for listening to Learning Reframed. We'll see you next time.